Welcome to our new series. We're meeting for these Women of Charmed conversations. These are sisters over in the Charmed sisterhood who are bringing so much light to the planet. And Ashley's here today, and she is a space holder. She holds space beautifully, not only for Women in Circle, but she's held her own circles in the past too. And she's been focusing a lot on homesteading in recent years. And she has an incredible piece of property where she is living off the land. And we're often hearing about her incredible adventures. Ashley is a survivor in the best sense of the word. And she survived through a lot of grief, through the suicide of her brother and also the passing of her daughter. And I hope, everybody, that you find this to be an inspiration and that you watching this feel like you belong and that you're not alone in whatever life is throwing at you, and that through skillful awareness and belonging, being part of a community like this one here, that you feel like it's possible to keep stepping one tiny brave step after the other. Hi, Ash. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, you're welcome. What part of the world are you tuning in from today?
I'm in the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas.
Oh, beautiful. What's the energy of that part of the planet like?
Very rural, very wild, untamed, just that raw nature, you know? Yeah.
Amazing. And were you always from that area or did you grow up in another part
I
of the
grew up
world?
in Little Rock, the main capital of Arkansas, where there's a bunch of crime and people and just sirens and just people everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Oregon for a while, and I loved that, and then I came back home, and it's like, I can't do this city, I need some space, but yeah, I love it. I'm real close to the Buffalo River, the America's first national river, and it's a national forest, and we can canoe and float, and it's 3 miles from the house, and so we love to just do that, and hop in the canoe and go away for 3 or 4 days and just be in nature where no cell service, no houses, no nothing for 30 miles.
Such a gift that feels so rare now that we could find like no cell service, or we did have internet like you do too. So that was really helpful, but it was so peaceful. I could go out and go for a walk and not see one person, only see birds, and I could like sing and yell and not feel like I'd be weird if I was doing that. There's something really freeing about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking a shower outside.
Yeah.
That I love that. Have an outdoor shower, and
Outdoor
that's perfect.
shower. When I
Yeah.
grew up, we would go to this lake every summer. My parents both grew up in that area, and it's very rural, way up near the Alpine, and we had no hot water. We had cold running water, no power. We actually used the oil lanterns. I remember as a kid to be like reading by the oil lantern. And we had no shower, but we had a bathtub that was up in the forest, and you would just make a fire underneath it. So every once in a while I could have a hot bath, but otherwise it was swimming in the lake. Yeah, pretty much a wilderness girl, just like you. But I'm curious, Ash, when you came into our Charmed sisterhood, which is everyone, if you're not sure what Charmed is, we have a monthly flow of gathering of the new moons and the full moons, having different workshops. And it's a way for women to align with their own rhythm and moon cycle, as well as the lunar cycle that we all experience, and these powerful points in the wheel of the year that really become markers in a spiral where we feel, oh, for example, right now we just had summer solstice, so we can celebrate our growth and we can shed what no longer serves. And hopefully, just like a snake shedding our skin, really embrace that we're always changing, that we can give ourselves permission to change and become this next version of ourselves. which can be really scary because we're going into the unknown. And I call this whole process, my framework is called the creative crossing. And going from somewhere that's like kind of a whisper, like the universe is just sort of nudging us along, and we're kind of not sure, like, am I really feeling that? Did I really hear that? And then we kind of circle around it for a while. And then we come to an edge where we feel, I'm going to have to kind of lean into my edge of discomfort here in order to actually do the thing. And I love the quote by Aeneas Nin. He's a beautiful author who says, life shrinks or expands depending on our courage. So if we have a lot of courage and we can go into that discomfort, then our life blossoms. There becomes this expression and momentum. And what breaks my heart is when women stay back, they hold back from the edge. And honestly, I don't think it's our fault. I think the world has taught us, trained us not to be too ambitious or to be too visible or to be too wild and those sorts of things. So I'm curious for you, Ash, when you came into Charmed, where were you in all of that?
I was just coming out of, like, my grieving over my daughter passing and kind of figuring out who I was and dealing with lots of guilt when I did feel happy because, like, I was in a relationship and I'd catch myself, like, smiling and be like, "Ah, that's disrespectful, I've gotta honor that memory," and, just kinda stumbling my way through, still feeling like, "Oh, I'm unbroken, I'm unlovable. This," I don't know who I am or what am I supposed to do now? Just kinda lost in that all those little areas, and I found Charmed, and the rest is history.
It
No.
kind of feels like I call that the phase, like the foggy phase too, because you're literally coming out of such an intense, horrific experience on some level. Although I know it's brought a lot of gifts as well. But obviously, it's such a huge loss. And really, that just feels so wrong in the world, right? That we would outlive a child. I had a similar experience in my life where I had an older brother that passed away. And I just really felt that for my parents, that that's just so horrible that they should go through this, right? It just felt like it's the wrong order. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely the hardest thing I've ever, because you just don't want to breathe. You're like, "No, I know I have to, but I don't want to be on the earth without her." And you just have to it was just get through the breath, every breath, just this breath. Then it was like, okay, hour by hour, then day by day. And then, you wake up and you realize you're not tracking it. Because yeah, she was 10 years old and she was disabled, and, she crossed over, and it's been 6 years now, and yeah, it was horrible, but I'm happy that she's not in pain anymore because she was in a lot of pain that was unfixable, and she's up there riding in her unicorn uni, from her favorite book and sliding down rainbows and just making stuff happen up there, and she was just amazing. She taught me a whole lot about what being human really was, that how you're more soul. She had so much more soul than a human body, and
What is one
learning
of the biggest things that she did teach you?
just to that everything you're stressing about doesn't matter. It's all small and it does in the big scheme of things, nothing really matters. It's just getting through the day, having fun in the day
Mhm.
with either having a lot or having nothing, being hungry or being over, bloated, whatever it is, just being with it and enjoying, not complaining or being like, oh, my leg hurts today. I'm not doing anything. Just
Mhm.
no, suck it up and get out there and live your life. Don't wait for this to get better or for you to have this to start living your life. So many of us do that. And with a special needs kid, it's easy to say, oh, once this surgery heals or this she gets over this, you miss their lives in a lot of ways. So you just need to that's the biggest thing is to savor every moment.
So was she born disabled
It
or
was during a traumatic birth injury
a
that
birth
she
injury for
yeah,
her? Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So she lived till she was 10. And so you had this incredible relationship for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 10 years, and I was by her side the entire time. She was in a wheelchair and couldn't lift her head and had to be tube fed, so she needed a lot of assistance,
Mhm.
but it meant that we were like buddies, I
Yeah,
slept in
I
the same
bet.
cabin with her. She blinked on me as she went to sleep, and
Uh,
she couldn't talk, but she could express through just not even an eye vision, just, like, little bitty things like a vein or
mm,
little just it was amazing the communications that she could have with not just me, but with anybody else without using words, that she could just zone people in and just bring them out of whatever they were in, and, she was powerful, she'd go through all the stuff that she went through, she was so happy. She'd wake up in the morning just screaming like a little bobcat, just like, like, whatever. It would just crack me up. I'd put on Mickey Mouse, and she'd think I was just magical. She loved Mickey Mouse, and she lived up in that TV, with Mickey and was just she'd talk with him, and,
aw.
it was just fun to experience
Mhm.
life through her eyes.
What a gift. What a gift.
Yeah.
And so when she passed, and then you're shifting through this fog, were you searching for community and sisterhood and belonging, or did you kind of stumble across that, or how did that end up happening?
Yes, after she passed, I joined a sister circle group in Oregon where I live,
Okay.
and then, like, 6 months after, I got a divorce, and it threw me for a loop, and I kinda didn't know what to do, and so I moved back home to Arkansas
Mhm.
and wasn't in that circle anymore, and it had been, like, a year or 2, and I missed it, I just missed being in community with women and that are dedicated to that kind of just the wheel of the year and living naturally and honoring, the goddess and the how we embody different archetypes throughout our lives, depending on what we go through, and we pull that energy and, just that awareness, it just does something to you and helps you feel centered when a lot of times you don't have people in your physical vicinity that you
Yeah, because
can
you're so remote where you are too, it would be challenging. So I
yeah.
think, yeah, being online is helpful, isn't it?
Yes, yes, very
Yeah,
helpful.
that's amazing. And one of the things that you and I were talking about this before we popped on into the interview is the process of witnessing too, which is so different than I know we all love like pulling cards for ourselves and reading personal development books and watching YouTube videos. And probably everyone watching this loves all of that. But I think one of the distinctions between doing that and being in circle is when we're in circle, we're hearing other women's stories. We might be sharing ours. We're comfortable. And there's a kind of power in the witnessing. How was that for you coming out of this fog of grief to be witnessed in that?
It was huge. And not only witness, but I love witnessing other women too, and
Yeah.
hearing them and just relating and knowing that we all go through so much similar things, but different, but very similar at the core. And just even if it's something you know about yourself, when it's someone else says it to you in a ceremony or a special way, that it's just very like reassuring and kind of like the first time you've heard it, and it just gives you that self confidence and sense of belonging that I think a lot of us, you can never have too much of that in life.
I think we all crave that, don't we? Just a place to belong. And probably a lot of us felt we didn't belong when we were kids, like maybe the black sheep of the family, or no one gets me, or how did I end up in this family? So when we can kind of find what we could call a soul family, it can just be like a sigh of relief, like, oh, I can actually just I found a place where I can just be myself. I don't have to wear the mask anymore.
Yes. That's a huge part of charm is that, yeah, you don't have to wear whatever the if we're doing, a certain goddess and her colors are like Beltane, you don't have to wear green and gold. You won't get kicked out of the meeting or, you don't have to have a certain goddess outfit on or, a fancy prop or expensive drum or even like have knowledge or read, all up about what's going on wherever you can just show up if you've been crying all night and are puffy or if you're looking hot and, whatever it is, you're welcome and you're seen and witnessed through all of that. They see that's how I feel anyway, is that they see who you are and that we're all like rooting for each other. And I like that going through my week, knowing that, I'm like pulling for them and they're pulling for me. It's got power.
Oh gosh, I don't remember what ceremony that was. It might have been Samhain where you came in this gorgeous dress and a wig. I think it was a wig. I have this image of you and you were like out in the wilderness. I don't know if there was a fire, but you're like dancing around and I could just see in one of my squares on the screen. And I'm like, yes, it's so awesome. Like just to be able to like get dressed up and kind of be given permission. I remember one of the other women, Rebecca at Samhain, I asked everyone to dress up and she came with a mask and I think a hat on and she looked amazing. And she said after, she's like, normally I would never do that. But those little kind of acts of like bravery are actually really big. They might not seem that big to like wear a mask or a wig or something or do something unusual, but they extend out into our everyday life because if we take a little risk to be seen and maybe to be judged, then we might actually do that out in our everyday life a little bit more too. So again, there's more courage in life, and what happens to life, it starts to expand. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, dressing up does. I like dressing up for Halloween. I normally dress up the whole month. It's just fun to kind of put on different personas and it does give you that just a little different angle of looking at life for the day.
Yeah, it gives you permission to like
Yeah.
take on that kind of personality and
Yeah.
access
And I think
another.
I might have been ISIS and that what you're thinking of. I don't know. I was a lot of different ones,
I can't
but
remember.
yeah.
What's Ash? What is ceremony like for someone who's watching and they have never been to a ceremony, they've never seen a ceremony or been part of one in this more like feminine and divine feminine kind of practice, women's spirituality. Everyone's been to a ceremony. Everyone's either been to a graduation, a wedding, a funeral. Most people can relate to that. How do you describe ceremony from this kind of more feminism practice?
I'd say it's a nourishing space where you have time to, without knowing it or like planning on it, that you have time to slow down, get out of your world and out of your head and just connect, just get grounded and connect into nature and connect with the time, the season, whatever is going on in nature and with the women. And just for an hour and a half, it's so good to just reset your nervous system and your brain that, it could be like, oh, I gotta do this, that, and that.
Mm,
For that hour, it's not about that, it's we're
mm,
moving and we're dancing and we're a lot of cool angles to different things and just that the nourishing when you leave after it, you just feel so much better,
beautiful.
supported, and a little bit of, "Yeah, I can do this."
Let's go. I think that's the power of being on a team, like I'm a dancer choreographer, so I always think of the ensemble and the feeling I've had of being an ensemble on stage and then witnessed is incredible. To me, there's nothing like it, like where you're maybe there's like 20 dancers and we're all moving at the same time. Like you're like a hive mind, right? And if one person was sick or didn't show up, like the whole hive was like, "Hmm, something a little off here." So it's a little bit like that in the sense that we're not dancing all together in that way, but we are together. We're here to set our intentions. We're here to leave the world a better place than when we found it. And we're here to say yes to what I like to call my charmed life, which is a really juicy life that's built from courage where you are the leading lady of your life. Like if they're going to make a movie about you, it's going to be very clear. We all love a good transformation story from A to B. Who were you? Who did you become of your own making? No matter what curveballs life is throwing you, you kept going to keep your eye on the prize, to answer your calling, or just to live life in a beautiful way that makes sense to you. And that's what I see, Ashley, you're doing so beautifully. You have your love of your life there with you. You are in the most beautiful landscape where you allow nature to be your teacher and live in symbiosis with nature, and you share of your gift. Ultimately, we are the gifts. It's not about the modalities and degrees we have. I'm curious about second chances. We recently had a blue moon, and I put out some prompts and ideas about second chances. And kind of where I got to it when I contemplated the idea of a second chance is, a second chance, there's a feeling like, oh, well, I failed the first time, so now I get to do it again. It's more like we're practicing and, oh, I did it this way the first time and I got a certain result. Now I'm going to come back to it. And now I know the result I want, and I probably know the pathway better to get there. So in fact, like the second chance, like, oh, actually, this is just me being courageous to go do the thing. And you were talking in the charm circle a little bit about second chances and what's happening with your family dynamic. I was wondering if you'd be willing to share anything that you've learned, discovered, or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for the Blue Moon, we were doing a journey to see what our second chance was, and it just was so obvious. It kept coming up that I need to reconnect with my nephews. I have 4 nephews, and when Carly passed, I kinda just cut everybody off, I just was trying to survive, and stuff happened, and we just let it go, and they were little babies at the time, and now they're in college, and it had been years, and I was like the aunt, kids just flocked to me, and I've always just been a kid person, so it was hard to, like, see a kid and be like, "Ah," "Go, don't look at me." But I wasn't ready, it took a while, and so I was like, "No, no, I want a different second chance. So I don't that's too big, that's too much for me," but it just kept coming up, and I was like, "Oh, okay, 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 it's time," and so I did some tiny steps, which some of them were tiny, some of them were huge, just reaching out, and then finally I got one of my nephew's phone numbers and left him a message, and he called me back, and we talked. And he was just it was my brother's son who passed away, and I hadn't seen him almost since he left, and just to know who he was as a person, he was amazing, and he's sent me a few texts since, and he it was just like, "Wow, that was so needed," I'm just very happy that I was able to do that and that it resulted in, we're not going to talk every week, but just that I know who he is and he knows that he has an aunt that loves him and, that I got to apologize for just being in his life, and then just dropping out, that, yeah, I didn't know how much weight that was carrying on me that, and yeah, so that's huge.
How cool is that that he phoned you, right? How old is he?
He's at 19.
Amazing. This 19-year-old boy is like, I'm gonna pick up the phone, call
Yeah.
my auntie. That to me just says it all right there, that he wanted to, and he wanted to connect with
Yeah, he's like,
you.
"Okay, I get off work at 3, so if you wanna call me, it has to be after 3." I was like, "I can call you?" I was, like, so, like, walking on
So
eggshells, I didn't wanna come off as that crazy aunt who's like, "Okay, hey, I love you, let's be best friends," But yeah, so that was fun and
I love, Ash, that you did I sent a meditation or journey, a blue moon meditation, and you went deep into the journey, and then what you did was you gave yourself a stretch to reach out. So, how would you describe a stretch? This is part of what we get up to in our community.
stretch is kinda those things that you need to do, but you're like, "That's gonna hurt, that's gonna be harder, I can't do that, who am I to do that?" And, they're not, like, scary, horrible, horrible things, but it's just stuff that would make really big impact in your life that you just on your own wouldn't do. And you just give us that little nudge. And sometimes it's like a harder nudge if you're being, like, no, I don't need to do that. And it's always been wonderful that you feel more confident because you did it. You got out of your comfort zone. And it always feels good to get out of your comfort zone once you jump. And it just like you said earlier, it just expands your world and your what you can experience in life, and there's so much awesomeness to experience in life. Why would you limit and only see a small view of what you already know when there's so much stuff out there that you haven't even heard of that could be like your next favorite obsession, and why not take a little bitty risk of momentarily being nervous or confused or unsure to get a new passion in life? That's always worth it.
Oh my gosh, so good. I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because I was recently reading Jim Collins' book. I think it's called A Life Worth Living, if I have that title right. If anyone listening wants the workshop, just write the word map, MAP, down below, and I'll send you either a recording or an invite to the next one. But this is the way I look at those passions that we're exploring too, is we go through life and certain, he calls them encodings within us, come online. So for me as a little girl, I can look back at my life and see, oh, my mom threw me into a ballet class. All of a sudden, little Desiree has this encoding that's like beep, 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 beep. You love music. You're coordinated in your body. You like to be on a team. Like, this is your jam. And all of a sudden, the encoding of dancer is like online. It happened because I was in a certain environment and the conditions brought it online. So now we don't have one encoding, everybody. We are like a constellation of encodings. It's so exciting to me because now we're moving through the world and we put ourselves as adults into conditions, environments where new encodings get to come out and we get to find out like what we were born actually to express, and these things will come online. But if we're kind of not staying at home, we're not engaging with life, we're a little bit in a sob story about our life, that's pretty much the opposite of bringing our encodings online. So I love what Ash is mentioning here because it's like we need to be courageous to put ourselves in circumstances. I'll give another example for anyone who's looking to find their ideal partner. I was single at one point in time between relationships, and my cousin, she was like my second cousin, so she was more like an aunt. Her name was Charlotte. She called me up. She never called me. I don't know what got into her, but she lived in Prince Edward Island. I didn't know her that well, but she was kind of like the wild one in the family. And she called me up. She's like, Desiree, how are you doing? And are you dating? And she wanted to know all about my love life. And she said, and she was this like financial manager at a bank. She was created her own wealth, highly independent. She had a husband that was 20 years younger than her. She was like, Desiree, all you need to do is like go to these board meetings where there's all these like executive men who are wealthy and smart, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh my God, those are so not my people. Nothing against them, but like like an artist, creative, like spiritual person. She's like, just put yourself into a room with those people. And I thought, okay, yeah, conscious, aware, smart, sense of humor. Like, where am I going to find this guy? And I was like, I have to put myself in that situation. And so I started going to yoga classes where I might find these men. That was the only thing I could really think of. And it started to kind of come. I saw a yoga teacher where I was like, oh, yeah, he would be good. And he had a wife. So that was a no go. But then it was like practicing. And soon after that, I met my king, Matthias, the love of my life. And he's exactly that, following the breadcrumbs until it appeared to me. It was given to me. So that's not so much an encoding, but it is, again, create the conditions, put yourself in the environment, engage with life, have a little bit of courage and faith in ourselves and the universe, and it will be revealed. It will be given to you. Yeah.
Yeah, you really are the creator of your own reality in your world, and if you wanna live by the beach, you can make that happen, if you wanna live somewhere else or your room, you create just like we decorate our own houses and, you choose what dishes are in there. You can choose the lifestyle by and your life, you don't have to be, "Oh, I wish I could do that," or "Wish I could be there." You weave it into reality, and I think that's one of the coolest things about us as humans, that we really get to be little magic makers and create the world that we want. I mean, it takes hard work. It doesn't just magically, think of it and it happens, but you get to choose your reality by your choices and actions, and that's that's fun.
So for some of the women, they're listening and they're thinking, I can feel it. They're like, yeah, I want to live by the beach, but I've got this commitment and that commitment and blah, 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 blah. All the reasons, excuses start to come up. Obviously, it would take leaning into an edge, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves. You're going to have to make some changes. You're going to have to enroll your family or other people into the vision of this. And I hear the complaining about money in the background. Well, I don't have enough money to do that, blah, 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 blah. There is, we know the saying, where there's a will, there's a way. I think where there's a calling, there's a way too. What advice, just as we kind of start to wrap things up, do you have for women to get themselves to leap so that the net can appear? Because only we can push ourselves off the ledge into the net. So like, as much as I think like as the leader of Charmed in the circle there, that I can be like nudging everybody and like giving you as much encouragement, at the end of the day, you have to leap yourself. So what do you want women to know about that process?
Just ask them what do they really want, and how. I mean, do you really want to live by the beach? Is that your dream? Is that your desire? Does that just light you up? If it does, then why the hell aren't you making it happen? I mean, what you have no idea the awesome, magical, fun life that you could be living right now if you just took a little jump, that's sorry. It's so worth it. Like, you plan out your life and you think it's all going, 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 and then the universe throws you a curveball and you're mad at first, but then you realize, "Whoa, it's way better than I could have ever imagined?" It's just the unknown. We get, "Hey, this is my plan. This is my book. I've made this. I'm supposed to be here at this age and then this milestone, and I meet this one, and, this is how it goes." And throw that book out the window. Just be free, and you have no idea what's in store for you. And the unknown is cool that you don't know. And the result of just experiencing true happiness and bliss that you never imagined, it's worth it.
What about for the woman, Ash, that is waiting for the other shoe to drop, who even unconsciously has a belief like bad things have happened to me in the past, and I know, like, I don't wanna take a chance because something bad could happen.
Unfortunately, bad things happen, and the good thing is that most of them, there's although they seem horrible and life-ending, they're not life-ending. It happens, and it hurts, and you get up and keep going, and it has I won't say funny, but an interesting way of making you stronger once you've gone through it and healed, and don't live your life waiting or in fear, because I mean, you have no idea what's gonna happen, and that's good or bad. So don't let that hold you back, because nobody is guaranteed anything in life, and you don't waste it by just wondering or like, "Oh, next week or next year I'll do it," and now's the best time is always the answer, and yeah, you'll have to make some changes. It might be uncomfortable, but it is worth it to live, not to be corny, but a charmed life, we deserve that. We've gone through a lot. Are we deserve and have worked hard enough and just being human to have a charmed life. It doesn't have to be hard and just filled with people we don't like and situations we don't like. And we get to choose that. And that's amazing. So choose it. That would be my advice.
That was good advice. I'm taking it in. I think one of the sacred gifts that Carly gave you, your daughter, is urgency. And not the kind of urgency that like, "Oh, speed up, I gotta get things done on autopilot." The urgency that every breath, every moment matters because tomorrow isn't promised to us. Nobody knows the end date of their life or natural purposes, right? So, yeah, I think you really are bringing those coats today, and thank you for that because we have to create everybody. We have to create urgency. Otherwise, things just get shifted to the back burner. And suggest everybody listening, like, what have you put on the back burner you've made less important? And whose comfort have you put on the front burner? Like, whose comfort have you made more important than your own desires, your own hopes and dreams, and maybe even your own health? And there's no judgment here. This is all compassion, and we've all been there. It's just because it's so easy once you realize that. It's like, oh, actually, let's just actually level this out. It's not this or that. It's not their comfort or my comfort. It's actually everybody. Everyone wins here. And how can I win more?
Yeah. You got to put yourself on the table, not, if not first, you got to be on the list you know, of what matters because you matter. If you're happy, everybody else around you is happy, you know?
What's one thing that you want, Ash, that you're either working on or aspire to?
Mm. I mean, a lot of little things, but I think I have everything. I can't come up with one thing I want. I don't know, just do more exploration, just to see more places and the time to, not that I don't have time, but, just that I get to experience more of the mysteries of life, exploring nature, different places, waterfalls, and I love, I just love life and getting to see and meet other people and see how they live it, and yeah, just to do more of that.
I've heard someone say before that the definition of wealth is actually having a lot of free time. The definition of wealth is having free time. And actually, I love that definition because if we were, I think a lot of people can relate to this, like having a lot of things on the to do list every day of like tasks that need to get done, kids or grandkids need to get picked up. We need to have the lawn mowed. We need to like get the laundry done, like all the things in the day. That's a lot of things. But the thing about having money, this won't apply to everybody, but maybe some people here, is it gives you options. So then maybe you have like a house manager, or you've got the nannies helping like with some of the pickups, or there's other people mowing the lawn. And now you're like, oh, I have so much free time. Now you even have space to ask yourself, like, what do I want? Do I want to take an art class? Do I want to like join a hiking group? Do I like what do I want to do? It just gives that luxury of time for exploration. Not saying that you don't have it, but I'm just getting to say that right now around the abundance, wealth, money piece, that it's not selfish to have a high wealth set point in financial freedom, sustained financial freedom as part of our intention for our life, because it will give you the wealth of time to explore. Why not we weave that in for anyone here who's desiring that or might be feeling guilty for like taking too much or having too much, or there's so many beliefs around money, isn't there, that I'll be a snobby rich person, I'll lose my values, people will judge me for having too much, or everyone's going to start asking me for money and then I'm going to have to give it all away, or who knows what's really going on in the background. Thanks so much for being here, Ash. This has been so beautiful to sit down with you and have this, I feel like, one-on-one time together. We're broadcasting it out, but to connect with you and your beautiful home, and just holding the mirror for you to reflect back to you all your accomplishments and the strength that you've exhibited in the circle, the way you hold space for women, and the wild quality that you bring in because you're so connected to nature. Is there anything I want to mention to the audience around, if anyone's thinking, would I fit in there? Would that be something I would want to explore to come into Charmed? Because the gate's always open for women to join, women of all ages and generations. I think some of the spaces we go to, it's like all one age. Like sometimes I go to these workout classes and it's all women in their 20s, and I'm like, oh my God. I feel very intimidated, but I think in the circle, I really encourage like an intergenerational aspect in case anyone's wondering about that. But what would you say, Ash, is
But we have all kinds of different women who from all different types of life in different stages, and it's truly just to come as you are, and we're not like clicky and like, ooh, did you see her? That's no, that just doesn't exist in the charmed world, and just don't if you're thinking about if you need a community of sisters to support you and help lift you up and help you navigate life when it does get foggy and you don't know who the hell you're supposed to be or want to be or what you want in any kind of capacity, that just do it.
how Ash, how would your life be different if you hadn't have joined?
I think I'd be a lot more unsteady and insecure and still kind of playing that, oh, I think I need to be taking more time and healing myself and being in my cave and I don't need to come out in the world and, just giving me that permission to be who I need to be and to change my direction in life, that it's okay, that it's something that we do, and just permission slips all around just to of however you're feeling, that that feeling of, oh, I'm not enough, I'm failing that I've always had in my head. That's, I won't say gone away, but it's so far back there and
Mhm.
that's huge. So thank you.
You're welcome. And holding the vision for you of your most charmed life. And we're all so unique and we all want unique things in life. And I love how you're so present. You could hardly think of anything that you wanted or needed. And I don't think it's for lack of having reflected. I think it's just you've actually created that environment that soothes your soul, and you're beautifully present in that. So thank you for modeling that to us. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. This is our first ever Women of Charm broadcast. So Ashley, I'm so glad Ashley was here and available, made herself available to be here. And I look forward to sharing more conversations from the circle along the way in this series. I'm Desiree. I'm a dancer, choreographer, like Ash, a holder a space supporting women in embodying their truths. Who am I? Who am I now? And the blossoming, bringing those new encodings online, finding the courage to engage more with life at their own best pace, and ultimately rolling up their sleeves and creating, really feeling powerful and being that creatress of their most charmed life. Not the kind of like good enough, because lots of us feel like, well, like, it's good enough. Like, I'm fine. But I'm kind of over that. I'm sort of like, you know what? Yeah, fine is fine, but why not let life expand because we only get to be this person one time, and there is that urgency there. So let's do this. Screw it, just do it. If you're interested in Charmed, you can write the word Charmed down below and I will reach out to you. And I'm just going to stop the recording, Ash, and then we can connect a little bit after. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.